In this video, I'm going to go through a quick definition of markup and markdown. So this is a concept of either increasing the cost of something you purchased or decreasing the cost of something you purchased. And hence you either make a profit or a loss because of this. Now, questions might clearly tell you that there's a markup or a markdown, or it might be implied in the question. So you need to know what it means from each one. But quickly, definition of profit and loss. A profit occurs when the selling price, so the price that is displayed, is bigger than the cost price. So you need to think of these questions as a supplier. So you bought an item for a specific cost, but you're selling it at a higher cost, which means you'll get a profit. And you will get a loss if your selling price is actually less than your cost price. So if you bought it for a bigger price than what you're selling it, so obviously you'll be making a loss. Now, if we swapped these two positions, so we did selling price minus cost price, you'll get a negative answer. So in general, you could, if I said that the selling price was $30, for example, and the cost price was $25. So using the first formula, I can immediately tell that I'm going to get a profit of $5. Now, if I say that I have another example where the cost price was let's say again 30, and I'm selling it for, and I'm sorry, if the cost, it did cost me 30, but I'm only selling it for 10. If I'm going to use the first formula, it's going to be the selling price, which is 10, minus the cost price, which is 30. So that's going to give me a negative 20. Now, it doesn't make sense to have negative 20. So we're still using the first formula. So a negative profit means you're making a loss. And a positive profit means you're making a profit. Now, this is if you want to stick to the same formula, or just swap them around. And so you can clearly see that if you take the cost price minus the selling price, it's going to give you a positive 20, which means that you made a loss of 20. So either you remember it as one formula, and if it gives you a positive, it's a profit. If it gives you a negative, it's a loss. Or you remember both formulas and you go, well, selling price minus cost price is profit. Cost price minus selling price is loss. Now, questions won't tell you which one to use. They'll tell you is it a profit or a loss, so you need to know which one makes more sense. So with that example, you need to understand the concept of profit or loss. You need to also understand the concept of markup. So you will buy an item and it will have a cost price. So this is what you bought it with. This is you as a supplier. And then you mark it up, which means you are going to sell it at a higher cost. So a markup is when the purchase price, so whatever people are purchasing, the consumer, is increased, and hence profit will be made. And the opposite is also true. For example, your product's not selling well, so you're going to reduce the price or you're going to mark it down. And so your purchase price is decreased and a loss will be made. So there's an error there. So purchase price is decreased and loss will be made. So you need to be aware what markup means and markdown. So markup, you have your item and you're going to increase the selling price. So obviously, if it costs you less and you're selling it for more, you're going to make a profit. And in here you have an item and you're going to decrease the price and the selling price. And so you are going to get a profit loss. Not profit loss, you're going to get a loss. So just a few examples to go through. So a camera is purchased for £650. It is marked up by 20%. Now, either they tell you the markup or markdown by percentages, or they're going to actually give you the amount. So they're asking you to find the profit. So this time they are actually telling you what the profit is. So if it's purchased, you've purchased it as a consumer for 650, but you've marked it up. So you've increased the selling price by 20%. So we actually need to know how much is it now. So you're going to first find 20% of this amount, and that is going to give you a 130 pounds. And so you have added a cost of 130 pounds, and so you're selling your before the selling price, your profit will be that's 130, because if this is what you purchased it by and you're adding a markup of 20%, so this is the profit that you're going to make. It's the markup that you've added. And so you can consider the selling price now. So if it was 650, you're going to add that 130 to it, and it's going to give you 780. And you can check your answer for the profit. So if going back to the formula, you're going to take selling price minus cost price. So selling price is 780, cost is 650, and so obviously it's going to be 130. So your profit is the markup and your loss is the markdown. So either they're going to give you at a specific number, or they're going to give you as a percentage. So that's how to solve this question. A pair of board shorts was bought for $35. They were marked down by 20% and sold in an end of summer clearance. Find the loss and find the selling price. So they're marked down. And remember, when it's marked down, the price is decreased, and so you're making a profit loss. So again, we're going to follow the same procedure. You can pause the video and go through the solution on your own. So if you answered the question, well done. The first process you're going to go through is, well, how much was it marked down by? So you're going to take, you're going to see what 20% of 35 is, and that is going to be $7. And so your loss is $7, because if you remember from here, your marked down is the loss that will be made. So it's the cost price minus selling price. So you've marked it down by $7, so you're going to lose $7 because that's how you've marked it down. And so the selling price now is your 35. Well, you reduced it by 7, so it's going to be $28. And you can check your answer again by using the formula. So loss will be the cost price minus the selling price, and the cost price was 35 and the selling price was 28, and the difference between them is 7, so that's the loss that you are making. So with these questions, it's just a matter of understanding what the question wants and how to answer them, what formula to use, and so on and so forth. These questions have asked you what percentages. I've put up a question where it doesn't actually tell you the profit and loss, and it's actually giving you a couple of numbers. So this is one of the questions. So Brad bought an old car for $600. He spent $1,038 restoring it and sold it for $3,500. Find his profit or loss on the sale. So if you're comfortable, you can always draw a diagram. So he bought it for $600. He fixed it, so this is a cost. He fixed it for $1,038, so that's another added cost. And then he sold it for $3,500, so he made a profit here. So you can go about this question many different ways as you want. I'll go through the more logical method. You can use any method as long as the calculations are correct. So if he sold it for $3,500 and it originally cost $600, it means he made a profit of $2,900, or so it seems. But remember that he spent $1,038 on restoring it, so actually it's slightly less than that. and this is how much it cost him to restore it. And so he's left with an actual profit of 1,862. And make it clear that it's a profit. Now, if it gave us a negative answer, then it means he made a loss. And that is why I mentioned the use of the same formula in the beginning. If it gave you a positive, it's a profit. If it gave you a negative, it's a loss. So this is the profit he made. This is how much the car originally cost. So we're just considering the item on its own. But then we considered the cost of restoring it. Another question here. So Anne bought a gemstone necklace for a markup price of, Jem bought a gemstone necklace for $375. She marked up the price by $30. She then decided to mark down the price by half. What is the profit or loss made? So this time they actually give you a markup price and as a number, not as a percentage, and then they tell you another process that was marked down. So there are 2 steps you need to go through, and we need to decide is it a profit or a loss. So do pause the video, attempt it if you want to. So first we need to know what happened when the price was marked up. So obviously from 375 it increased by 30, and so we get to $405. That's how much it costs. She then decided to mark down the price by half, and they could have actually said reduced by marked down by 50% or marked down by 20%. Typically you'll see questions that start with a percentage here and then another percentage here. So if they start with a percentage here, you have to go through the percentage of amounts as we did before. And then if they went through the percentage here, you have to go through the new price. So this time I'm not going to mark down the price from the original. I'm going to mark down the price from what we have right now. And similarly, if they told you reduce or mark down by 20%, you'll have to do 20% of the new amounts that you have. So this was marked down by half. And so we get that the new selling price is $2.25. And so is it a profit or a loss? Well, obviously, if she bought it for 375 and she's selling it now for 202, so the selling price is actually less than the cost price, which means she'll actually make a loss. She's not benefiting from how expensive it was. And so we could go 375 minus 202.5, and so this is when you immediately know that it's a loss. So you get 172.50 dollars. So this is a loss. So this is using the loss formula, which is the cost price minus the selling price. If we use the profit formula, where it was the selling price minus the cost price, you'll see that the selling is 202.5 and the cost was 375. And so the answer would have been negative 172.5. And so the profit is a negative profit, which means it was a loss. Okay, but you don't say it's a loss of negative 125. You say it's a loss of 172.50 cents. Hopefully that made it clear. The main thing you need to take out of this is what do we mean by markup and markdown, and sometimes they tell you the markup and markdown by using percentages, so you need to be aware of that. You also need to interpret the question, whether there's a profit, there's a loss, and what type of calculations you'll have to use.